So, hello everyone. This is Rihanna Morgan. I'm here representing the great and wonderful Vagobond magazine. I am the editor in chief of Vagobond magazine, and I want to introduce our founder and publisher, CD, and let him introduce himself a little bit. And then I can go through all of the other members, or he can go through all of the other members of our editing group, our editing team, our editor team, and then we can get the show going.
That sounds really good. I love your introduction. I love that you're piloting the ship, Rihanna. Actually, it's great. So I'm CD Demisio, founder and publisher of Vagobond magazine and vagabond.com, and I'm really happy to be back. I just got back from 10 days of no tech and no talking, and so I've got this little bit of a cold that's here, but I'm really happy to be back, and it's been crazy to not have looked at news, not seen anything, and there's been a lot going on, so I'm excited to catch up.
Oh man, me too. Me too. First of all, I'm so glad that you were back, and I'm so glad that you were able to um, do that for yourself. And so that's, one of the things that looking forward into 2024, I really want to focus a little bit here and there on self care and doing the things that we need for our own souls and hearts. And so yes, I commend you so much for that. And I'm gonna transition a little bit and introduce some more members of our Vagabond magazine editorial team. So ER Donaldson is our managing editor, and then we have Cryptoversal Books. Cryptoversal is our literary editor, and we have Quanta, the amazing Quanta, is our fashion editor, and then our technology editor is Indefatigable. And so they may jump in periodically throughout today's show, or they may jump in next time you drop by for a listen. But they are super.
Rihanna, I'm losing you a little bit. I don't know if that's
Oh,
my connection or if that's you.
oh no. Okay. Well, I haven't moved at all, so let me keep talking, and we'll see if it works itself out. Okay. So anyway, so that's our editorial team. And I'm going to pass the mic back to CD and see if he has a topic he wants to bring forward so we can chat about that and then see how things move along here. CD, are you with us? That may be something going on his end. Okay, so let me, I want to say hello, and um, I think, did we get a note here? Let's see. Did something come through? You hear us both clear. Oh, that's so great. So, authored style, do you want to come up and share some things you're working on in your world? I'll send an invitation to you. Thank you so much for coming today. And I would love to have you join us up on stage and share a little bit about what you've got going on in your world. And we'll give CD a bit of time and see if he can jump back here with us. And here we have Indefatigable dropping in. This is amazing. What a day. This is so great. So I'm going to send him an invitation and see if he wants to jump up and chat a little bit too, because I actually have some fun questions for him about all of the things going on, his feelings about the space. And so hello, good morning, Indefatigable.
Hello, friends.
I don't know. Well, Indy, how are you doing and what's
Can you
going
guys
on
hear
in
me?
your world?
I am happy to be here. I took a day off work, um, and I'm excited to be on this show. I usually have to miss it.
I know. I'm so happy. So, Indy, can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. I hear
Oh,
CD well,
yeah, I do too.
and I figure technical difficulties, we just be patient and pretend like they're a feature.
Exactly.
Like this is an improv game
It
where
is.
we can kind of hear each other or kind of cannot.
Right. Yes, and yes, and
Yes,
so
yes. And
yes, and yes, and so authored style. I would love for you to join us today. So please jump in and introduce yourself and tell us something you've been working on.
before I do that, I thought that was funny. I have a friend that comes into spaces and their Wi-Fi keeps cutting off and on, and they like blur. And at some point, you start understanding what they're saying, so you just go with it. So I'm with that.
Excellent, excellent, excellent.
But yeah, for me, I'm just working with different people who are trying to get into the author game, putting out books and stuff like that. So just trying to be like soundboards for them. So that's what I've been doing. And in the new year, I do want to try the scent.co and test out some things. So right now, just kind of getting reading and trying to, perfect a little bit more before I put out another piece. But yeah, I appreciate these things.
Yeah, that sounds amazing. So if you're going down the scent.co path and you have questions, just reach out and let me know. I would love to help you and talk about some of the things I use it for. And so yes, don't ever hesitate to just be like, hey, I need help with this, or can we can I bounce some ideas off of you? Because I would love to be able to do that and love to be able to help with that. So yeah, just feel free. Yeah, definitely, definitely. Excellent. And I see that we have CD back with us. And so let's see if he can chat.
That was terrible. Like I was away from tech for 10 days, and for some reason I forgot that X does these shenanigans, but I couldn't hear anything. Like suddenly Riona's voice started going robot, and then she handed it to me and I started talking. Then my mic got shut off, and then I couldn't hear anybody. So can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes, yes.
well, good morning. Good
Good
morning. Good
morning.
morning.
Yay.
I just want to say how much of what did you hear anything that I said previously?
Nothing.
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 Oh,
Nothing.
thanks, Elon. So anyway, I was waxing poetic about our great team. You know how E.R. Donaldson is like the guy that you want to be crossing the T's and dotting the I's and making sure everything gets done. About indefatigable and how blessed we are to have him. You know, him being that rare creative person who also has a technical understanding and the ability to like see both sides of that coin that usually people are on one side or the other. Of course, Riona, absolutely love you, my sister from another mister. And, you know, the fact that you and I have hung out in real life and spent time, doing other things together is really just a big bonus in all of this. But like, I so admire all of your work and everything that you do. Cryptoversal Books, I want to sing out because that guy's been along for the ride since the beginning. Like the first issue of Vagobond magazine, the literary space is there, run by him, and like what a innovator and leader in this space and in this place. And the same for Quanta in terms of the digital fashion and Web3 fashion. Like we are so blessed to have the team that we have and everyone here. And I'm just really happy to be back. And I missed you guys.
Oh yeah, we miss you too a lot. And so it's really when we have such a wonderful cohesive team like we do and one person is absent, it's really evident to see what a key role that they have and how we all work together like in this beautiful way. And when someone is absent, it's just like, oh, but we really need CD's insight. We really need his thoughts on this. And so it's almost like I want to revamp some old topics and say, oh, we want to talk about this. We want to get your input. So we may even pull that out again and see. And so were you able to hear Indy speak, and were you able to hear what Authored Style is working on?
I caught the tail end of what Authored Style is working on. That he wants to start using Scent for some things, and he's helping some other authors. But that was it. And I'm so sorry, you guys, to like ask for a rehash. But I would love to know. I'd love to know what's going on. I've been buried in a tech-free zone, talk-free zone for 10 days. So there's nothing I don't want to hear.
Excellent, excellent. So Indy, you want to tell us what you're doing with your day off?
Well, I don't want to offend anyone on our very polarized global geopolitics scale, but I'm participating in solidarity with calls for a global strike to support a ceasefire in Israel and Palestine, and
How could that offend anybody, Indy? I mean, I'm
oh, it
just like, I'm
oh,
sure it
it
does.
does, it does. There's a sort of viewpoint that any yielding is in support of more violence, either now or in the long term, and there isn't a lot of rational discussion around it. Is more emotionally charged, kind of like knee jerk. But I get the perspectives, and so I want to be sensitive to alternative viewpoints, which I've heard quite a bit of. But I think writers around the world, lovers of humanity, lovers of art, are all collectively putting their efforts together to do what they can to raise awareness to the humanitarian crisis, which I think everybody can agree is something that we should try to do something about. So that's why I'm off today. And it's not just like I'm off and chilling. It's like I'm off and focused on seeing what I can do. I don't know. I have my ukulele here. I'm thinking of songs for peace. Like I don't know. It's like, is art a tool for helping people? I don't know. I guess it's
Oh,
better than
you know.
Yes, it does.
so. Yeah, so that's my day today, and I couldn't think of a better group of people to be with, like, and all of everyone listening. And I totally acknowledge that not everyone will share this viewpoint, but peace now or peace later, peace always. I guess is my
Oh,
phrase.
that is so true. That is so true. And I always believe set down the weapon and pick up your heart.
Oh,
That's
yes.
there's never a question for me. It's just love first. Do that first. And man, you'll be amazed at how far you can get. So I I'm with you and I'm with oh gosh. Um yeah. Put down the weapon and pick up your heart.
Um, that gave me goosebumps, Rihanna. Last week I got to present what I do for my day job. I do a annual anthology of the best poetry, drama, fiction, and nonfiction from people incarcerated all over the country, and every one of the people who like submits their work, thousands and thousands of people submit every year to the organization I'm leaving. But they submit, and what I recognize is that everyone has taken like creative expression as a solution for themselves, for like introspection and community building and all the things that we do here in the outside world, and even in Web3. It works even in the harshest circumstances. So like people who feel lost and alone, they pick up a pen and poem, they read the poetry of others. And so it's really cool. I got to stage their work at Brick Arts and Media in Brooklyn, and like a bunch of people came out, and it was really, really cool. Had actors and stuff reading the work for the people who couldn't be there. So I guess I'm also kind of recouping from organizing that event, which was really touching and moving and stuff. And there's the one major thing is like we tend to, even in this country, based on like media, we think of people who are inside prisons as like, oh, they deserve that, or like they're weirdos and like they're deviants. But like there's so many like moms and cousins and younger sisters and like just people really struggling, and like I get to see all of them and their words and their hearts. And I kind of just want everybody else to as well. It's like a weird thing, but writing helps get their selfhood out there into the world. So anyway, that's really where I'm at in the heart and mind space, I guess. I feel very exposed right now. I don't know. Shut up right now.
Hey,
Oh,
thank you. Thank
yeah.
you for exposing yourself that way and for sharing that. I mean, that's the thing is if we don't share those ideas and if we don't share those like ways of living and ways of thinking and ways of being, then how can anyone know? And the truth is like we do have so many I don't want to say wrong ways of thinking, but misguided ways of thinking about other people. You know, we spend so much time coming up with these narratives that just simply aren't true. And the narratives sort of block the ability of us to actually see what's true. And you know, the Israel Palestinian thing and the Ukraine Russian thing are a couple of really big examples of that. But prisons in the US are maybe an even bigger example of that, and the way that we think of people who are incarcerated, and the way that we think about communities who are impacted by incarceration, and the way that we think about families and the people that, you know, that are basically tortured because of the way that we've been sort of misguidedly thinking about this stuff. So I really admire you, Indy. I love that you and I are friends, and I so much think that the work that you do has such a huge impact, and you're such a humble dude. But man, really the love that comes out of your heart and that just like pushes you into these directions. So admirable, so loved back in return, and so necessary for the world, man. Really, thank you so much. Don't feel exposed, feel empowered because you're an empowering dude.
So very true. So very true. And I see that we have our friend Odd Writings here with us today. Hello, hello.
Hello. I've got my cup of coffee, uh, getting over one of my mild headaches. Not a big deal. Uh, Obviously, I arrived a little bit late, so I recognize a little bit of talk about Israel and Palestine and incarceration and things. Um, was there something early on about maybe are we having a special Vagobond magazine dedicated to controversial issues, or is there a or are we yeah, or are we sort of just talking about what we've been thinking about, kind of, what we've been working on?
Yeah, Rihanna asked me, "What am I doing with my day today?" So, like, I'm on strike. So that, that was basically it. It is not the themed episode for controversial issues.
I like
Because
the idea of having a controversial. We might as well. Other people talk about controversial issues. I don't see why we shouldn't. Maybe we should schedule that once a month. The monthly controversial issues episode where we can, you know, let people get heated or let people get vibed.
yeah, I think it might be kind of it, also on a very superficial level. It's a little bit witty because it's a controversial issue about controversial issues. See? So it's like kind of thing.
George can't help it, man. Even George's thinking is in palindromes. I love it.
That's wonderful. I actually think that's a good idea to have a controversial issue space once a month. That might be really interesting. That might be really um, enlightening and opening the ideas of different perspectives and outlooks for our listeners and for us. And so, yeah, I mean, it was just listening to Indy this morning talk about the citizens and the people who he interacts with on a daily basis. And everybody, I think, knows that I'm a lawyer in my day job, and the people who I interact with are people. They're people, and there's this idea that um, life happens, all of your choices and all of those things, sometimes that you're the one who put you in that position. And then there are some there's this is a controversial issue here in my world, is sometimes life happens to people. You can't put everything on someone's shoulders as, well, you chose that. Well, some people would never have chosen the place that they are in and the place where they are being. And yes, authored style, I see that your hand is up.
No, to touch on that, it's something I do in my day to day. I have to do history checks for people, like if they have a baby, basically, and we try to set up services for them. But what we do is a history search of like the family, like, what happened to mom and dad. And I deal with abuse and neglect of children, vulnerable adults. And a lot of times what it is like day one of the mom's life was like abusive. And day two of the dad's life was abusive. And there's so much stuff that happens. And then you can see, like, things that happen. And, right now, we're trying to give services to people to like better a child's life going forward by putting like services and stuff in place. But you can just see like all the horrible things like the parents went through, and then it just kind of just carries over.
Right. Right. Gosh. Well, I just want to say I'm so grateful that we are all here and that we all have voices of love and care for each other and the worlds that we touch, and which is another huge reason that Vagabond Magazine is such a home for me and all of you here. Whether you're listening now or in the future, just know that we are a safe and loving place and that you are welcome with us and that we care for you. So I'm super grateful that we get to do this together and that we get to build in this world together where such voices are heard and honored. And so thank you so much. Thank you so much. And so CD, you now are back. Do you want to give an update on what you have been doing?
I will. I'd love to. So first, I just want to say that for anybody listening now or in the future, this is a safe space, and even if your opinions and views are dissimilar to ours or they conflict with ours, you are welcome to express that in a kind and loving and peaceful way. But if you want to express it in a terrible way, if you want to be toxic, if you want to be aggressively mean, if you want to be a dick, we will silence you on this space. And I think that that's just a fair thing to say. Like, if you're going to be toxic, then we get the choice to say like we choose not to accept that gift. Like you're bringing the gift of toxicity here. I'd like to give you my toxicity, and we choose to say like, no, we'd rather not accept that toxicity. Thank you. You can keep it, but we don't want it. So that's for the future. I think that just needs to be the way. Like you don't have to agree with us. You don't have to toe the opinions or views of Vagabond magazine, the editors of Vagabond, the friends and listeners or contributors of Vagabond. Um, but you do have to be a kind person in a way that you deal with that. Hopefully that came across the right way. Anyway, what I've been doing for the last 12 days was 13 days ago. 13 days ago, I went and I checked into this camp, and it's Vipassana meditation, and it's a 10-day silent retreat. So we turned in our phones. They gave us the orientation. They told us where we were sleeping. They put us in like cabins, with like men and women were separated from each other with no contact except like seeing across this imaginary dividing line. We didn't know the other people that we were with, and we all took a vow of silence. We turned in our devices. There was no tech. There was like electric lights, but run very sparingly. And essentially, we spent 10 to 12 hours a day meditating, learning meditation techniques, and a lot of time in contemplation, in reflecting on our lives, and putting the pieces of our lives together in ways that maybe we hadn't been able to together because our world is just so loud and so busy and so constant and so um, anti focus. Our world doesn't let us focus. So for 10 days, no communication of any kind, no eye contact, no uh, hand gestures, and we're like sharing a bathroom among the men, and they're sharing a bathroom among the women, and there were people who blessed us by coming out and volunteering to prepare food so that we could meditate and not be interrupted. And we woke at 4:30 in the morning with gongs, and we go to sleep at 9:30 at night, with the lights out and the sound of the night and the morning. And it was such a beautiful experience. I'm really just it ended yesterday, and I'm still processing all of that. and many of the lessons from it. But I have to say, it was life changing, and also this is something that is it's non religious, it's non denominational. You know, it does have a Buddhism focus, but it's you can be a Hindu, a Muslim, a Christian, a Buddhist, a Baldist, whatever you want to be, you can be that, and they're not going to try to change you into something else. And also, it's free. It's something that they don't charge for, which makes it very, very clean. Like, and I kept expecting, like at the end, that there would be some sort of, like, and because you've been here, now we're going to do the timeshare pitch, and you have to pay. You have to, get out your wallet and make it worthwhile. They never did that. They said, hey, like this is all paid for by donations, and if you guys want to donate so that other people can come and experience this, we encourage you to like enjoy the joy of like sharing that. But there was no pressure. It was really just astoundingly amazing. And you know, so lots of things there, but one of the big ones was no tech and no talking and no sort of human interaction or touch. It was really just like creates this really different dynamic than most of us have ever experienced, especially in the past 20, 30 years with the advent of smartphones and the every instant touching of technology. So that's kind of what I've been up to, and I'm just so happy and grateful to be back, and filled with gratitude for so many things. But if you guys have questions about this, I'd be happy to field any questions, or we can just move on and talk about something else if you guys want to do that. I'm just happy to be talking with you and here.
That sounds so amazing. It sounds so rich and enriching and just amazing.
I love it. I love it. I love it so much. Um, I guess, I mean, I've practiced meditation and various forms of mindfulness, and it's been super valuable for me. So I guess I'm wondering how that experience compared to maybe other um, experiences you've had like that, CD.
Yeah, I mean it's comparable, to other experiences, and I've never done a 10 days of no talking in my life. Like there's never been 10 days that I didn't talk, except maybe when I was an infant, and and as an adult, I've never had 10 days of no interaction, with I do go into hermit mode sometimes, but you still have to like say hello and good morning, and go to the grocery store, or do what you need to do. Um, so all of it very powerful, but I would say like, so I think for some people they go and they do something like this and they're like, okay, this is the way, this is the future, this is what I'm going to dedicate my life to now, this is actual living, and that's where they move forward. For me, I have a pretty robust philosophical system. I mean, baldism is really like, as much as baldism is a joke, it is really a reflection of my philosophical system. And so it's pretty robust, and it's made up of so many different components, things from Nichiren Buddhism to transcendental meditation to some aspects of Hinduism to, things that I've picked up in Christianity and Scientology and Islam, of course, as well plays into that. And so I have this very robust, inclusive philosophical system that I live within. And so for me, this is like adding one more beautiful, beautiful piece, and that was my sort of my reason in doing it. Is I saw that I've meditated for a long time, but not particularly effectively. I sit for meditation, maybe 20 minutes in the morning if I bring myself to it, and sometimes as much as 30 minutes or an hour. And I'm sorry if the wind and the cars are gonna maybe make my voice a little hard to hear through the earbuds. I wanted to be outside with you guys today, as opposed to sitting inside. But so so yeah, I feel like my meditation game needed to be reset, and I heard about Vipassana from a friend, and he was like, "Yeah, it's 10 days," and told me about the whole thing, and I was like, "Oh, this is like meditation boot camp." I was a Marine, and I went through the Marine Corps boot camp, which is arguably one of the hardest, mental and physical challenges in the world, but but the 10-day meditation boot camp ranks right up there with it, and in terms of impact, it might even rank a little bit higher in terms of positive change. Um,
So to get back to that question, I definitely felt some connection with the real that I'd been missing and wanting and trying to achieve. But this connection with the real is something that I've also felt through some other practices. Through Nichiren Buddhism. The chanting, the Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Like when you do that as well, you can reach this point, and also through things like surfing and being very present in the moment. So that's the whole goal, I think, of this particular practice. The goal is um, to help you to find the place where the expression of your being can actually be merged and coexist with the expression of the totality, the reality of being. I don't know if that makes much sense or not, but George, go ahead. I see your hand.
Yeah, so you recently for NaNoWriMo or whatever the whatever the thing is called for the book stuff. So you finished a book about your family, and I'm assuming that a lot of your historical meditative ideas and practices were reflected in there. I'm wondering if you're ever thinking of having extracts from that book and maybe publishing one of it in one of the Vagobond upcoming issues and tying it in with the meditation. It might be kind of interesting.
It's interesting you say that. Like, so the book did tie into this meditation to a certain extent in terms of in writing the book, I was spending a lot of time considering family and relationships and my family and my relationships. And that was something that also I spent a lot of time in the Vipassana retreat considering and thinking about. And they were two really different ways of looking at things. It was almost like I don't know, like watching the same story be told on Fox News and then on CNN, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, different perspectives. That makes sense. I mean, not completely different, but slightly different enough such that people notice the difference. I think that's the important thing, and also ideas just in general. There's a fluidity to them, where what seems valid at one point in time is that value changes over time, partly because of the society you live in and what you're absorbing from that society, and partly also from your own experiences and how you're interpreting what goes on around you. So, for me, stuff like articles and things that appear in magazines are like a frozen moment in time, and so it's good to know the context around that. So I guess I'm not sure why CNN versus Fox News kind of brought that up, but it's in a sense that I guess it's thinking that they're layers of the same thing, but viewed from slightly different viewpoints, I guess, which is a little redundant. Anyways,
Yeah, I mean, it's like you could have a school bus crash, and the Fox News story might be like drug addict, ex-con bus driver endangers kids, and then the CNN version of it might be like, 15 innocent, beautiful babies, like terrorized by wayward driver of Nissan pickup truck, and the reality of it might be like, you know the tire went flat and they had to sit by the side of the road for a little while. So perspectives. And this is something that it came up and I wanted to talk about it with you guys. And that's the no tech aspect of these 10 days. I was sitting in there and I have a little bit of an entrepreneurial mindset, and what had occurred to me was like how valuable 10 days completely away from tech and news is, and how hard it is. I mean, I did have I had some freakouts about access and not knowing about my daughter and that she was okay and things like that. And but I think if we could somehow create and facilitate a way that was non mystical, non sort of spiritual practice where people could safely go and have 10 days of no tech. Um, it, what thing we'd be bringing to the world, to our world, because 10 days away from news will shift anybody's perspective, and 10 days away from all the beep 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 of our world will shift anybody's perspective. So have you guys ever, what's the longest that you've taken away from tech in the past, let's say, 2 years?
I did
Well, let
a
me.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Greg.
Uh,
Josh.
well, I'm still formulating my thought, and I was going to start to speak without it the formulation being finished. So why don't you go ahead and go ahead, go first?
uh, I did a retreat. I just realized it was September 2022. Yeah, up at a farm in Vermont. They had sheep, they had yurts. We stayed in the yurt. There was like a little notepad and like a zine in the yurt that I was in, and I could see that there were like quite a few established writers who had stayed there, and like I was like, I can't write in this notepad. Like it had pages where you could like add your own thing, and I was like, I'll just keep my thoughts in my thoughts. But honestly, we walked down the hill every day. It's like on the side of this beautiful mountain in a three-way intersecting valley for the Green Mountains. Like they're older than the Rockies, these mountains, and have so much history. But we'd go down the hill, get our farm to table food. There was talking, but there was no tech. And so like it was like I don't know. It was really good for me to be around people and like just be and not have my consciousness spread far out of like place. Felt really good, refreshing, I think.
I think what I have is I've never owned a cell phone, so for me it's a little bit easier to stay away from what we think of as tech. And so when I think of I get on the computer, and when I'm on in front of the computer, that's my tech. Now for many years I was a software developer, and I guess I'm still a software developer. So but I haven't actually written any software in a long time now. I've been mostly just writing poetry. But back when I started, my whole workday was software development, and then part of it was that because I'd get home and I would want to have nothing to do with any computer stuff. I tried to be, just give me a book, something with paper, and just get me away from that. But there was a point in time in the late '90s. This was when I was at my first job, my first real software development job, where I was actually, I had a boss, and I was living in a different city and all this. And my my version of tech, that they didn't. I was doing software development all day long, but I didn't feel it as tech. I thought of it as like playing with puzzles. And my version of tech was actually the television. And there was a period in time where I got so tired of the things that I was seeing on television and the emphasis that was being placed on stories in the quote unquote news, where people would talk and talk about O.J. Simpson and the white van, and he's going down the road and all this, and I got so sick of that I threw away my TV. Like I literally just went to the trash and dumped it, and then I had no TV for about 2 years, and so that was my version of isolating from tech, because I thought of tech as interaction with other people, but not sort of from a remote thing. So I wasn't it's not really interaction, but it's just like getting ideas thrown at you. That to me was what I thought of as tech. And I was pretty happy because I was completely oblivious to things that were going around except for what was in my little world. And so that to me I kind of liked, until I realized that the first exoplanet had been discovered during that time, and it had happened like several years, like I don't know, a year and a half after I had kind of blocked myself off, and I was stupefied that I had not known about this, because it's like once in a lifetime, once in once and a forever thing. I mean, once you find an exoplanet, that's it. The exoplanets have been found. Someone has an exoplanet. And I thought, well, there is a downside to completely cutting yourself off, because I would kind of like to know if, when these kind of things happen. And so that's when I started to kind of get back and start to pay attention to the outside world, mostly in science, what was going on in science. But that led on to other things. And so then I kind of reintegrated. But so it wasn't a total cutoff, but it was significant enough that it changed the way that I behave to other people. So that's my contribution.
George, I love you, man. You are such a great person. I'm so glad that you're part of this Ohana, this family that we have. And the fact that you live without a cell phone and have never had one, I admire that so much. But I cannot stop laughing at the fact that you're like, and I would cut myself off from tech, but your huge regret that you're still holding on to is like, I missed the announcement of the discovery of the first exoplanet is so great that that's the regret that you had. And by the way, it was a Bronco, man. It was a Bronco. If you would have watched more TV, you would have known it was white Bronco.
That's good.
That is so funny. George, you're so amazing. I live in Montana, and we have really great internet. We have really great things when it works. And the time that it doesn't work is during those great big thunderstorms in the summer. And that's literally one of my most favorite times in the world, is because the world gets really dark and it gets really rainy and it gets really like loud outside with all of the storm and everything, all the electricity goes out, and we light a fire and we light candles, and we just we absorb each other, and we open all the curtains, and we look outside, and we try to be as much with the power of the storm outside and the calmness where we are, and be together. And when I talk to my children about what are their favorite moments growing up, they always mention those days when the power will be out for an hour, 2 hours, 7 hours, 24, 48 hours. It just depends, and it's just quiet, and you get the opportunity to set down the responsibilities of life, because nothing is working anywhere, and nobody can do anything except wait for everything to come back on. And so it happens every summer, and I just love it. I love those moments so much.
Brianna, you just reminded me. Those were some of my favorite moments of childhood as well. Were those moments of like I lived in the mountains and in the country, like in Oregon and in the Southern California mountains. But when the power would go out and we'd have those big storms, yeah, pulling out the candles, my mom pulling out the old kerosene lanterns, and we'd get the fire going, and and we'd play games by candlelight. Those were, with the electricity out, with the power gone, those were probably peak moments. And that's sort of the kind of moment that I was experiencing over the past 10 days too, was this like, the moment of like, okay, all the stuff that we would usually do, there's no drawing, no whatever, no games, no interactions, there's nothing to read. What are you going to do? And I created games in my head in some cases. Or I went out at one point, it was raining, and I splashed in puddles because I was like, I really want to splash in these puddles. I'm just going to let myself go splash in these puddles. And I know it probably looked like a crazy person, a 50-year-old man out there splashing in the puddles, but man, it was so enjoyable to do that. Sometimes we just got to let go. And man, one of my big fantasies for a long time has been that the electric grid would fail, and somehow we would all come through it and manage to survive without all the beep, beep, beep of the world.
Yeah, I definitely hear you. But if that happened, I wouldn't get to talk to you guys. And so that would be awful. Awful, awful, because I'm so grateful for us. and so wonderful. Excellent. CD, did you have another topic that you wanted to bring forward today?
I do. And we don't have to talk about it for long, but I have to tell you guys, like, not having electronics, not having access to the net, one of the things that I didn't have access to was, I spent some time with NFTs and crypto and Web3. And I came out and I was like, yesterday, I was like, okay, is it time? I'm going to look. Okay, I'm going to look at the Bitcoin chart and see. And I was like, I wonder if it's at 12. I wonder if it's at 30. I wonder if it's at, 35. I wonder if it hasn't moved at all. And I looked and it was like at 43 yesterday. I was like, oh my God, what happened? What happened? So does anybody know what happened? Was there an impetus that drove Bitcoin up to 43,000, or was it something just, the stuff that we've been seeing so far?
I suspect that it's tied together with ordinals, because their ordinals are like getting real popular, and that together with talk about a possible spot ETF that they've been trying to get for years now, for cryptocurrency. They have future, like, I don't know what they call them, future ETFs or something, but there's a version that you can get, but you can't get a spot ETF, exchange traded fund in the financial world. But there's been a lot of talk recently about, maybe now we're finally going to get one. My guess is, if I were to ascribe a reason for it, because I think sometimes things happen for no reason, but if I were to ascribe a reason for this recent rise, I would think it's a combination of ordinals becoming more popular and the talk about the ETF stuff.
I have no idea why Bitcoin bumped. There were a lot of predictions early on in the year. The mining rate gets harder. It gets increasingly more scarce over time. So like that combined with its longevity, well, the likelihood is that the trend will continue upward, because that's kind of like built into the mechanism. But I think it's really interesting to think about like zeitgeist related things. I don't know, like there's regulation, there's adoption, there's all these variables that are like based on these fuzzy sentiments, like and Bitcoin like slices across a bunch of them, and it's so interesting from like a sociological standpoint to look at Bitcoin price as an indicator of sociological phenomenon. But I don't always know what it means as an indicator, if that makes any sense.
That makes total sense, but it wasn't just Bitcoin too. Like AVAX, Avalanche jumped like huge amount. I looked at Avalanche and I was like, "Whoa!" Avalanche went from like $20 to $36, which is, I think, bigger than most things in the market. And I just wonder if there was specific crypto related like news or announcements that I missed. I mean, is AVAX like the new is Avalanche the new layer two that we should be using, and any stuff like that come up?
I know Avalanche has something coming out. I don't know. I haven't researched it, but I've seen a lot of stuff popping up. So that's probably it. I had some old Avalanche somewhere, so I gotta see. I didn't look at that, so but I gotta see how much it went up.
I think you're going to be happy when you look, unless it's dropped, by the same amount since we started this call.
There's a
So
there's Oh, sorry.
you're good, George. Go.
There's a very interesting book that called the historic. Well, it's not exactly the title, but something like the historical madness of crowds, and it's been out of it was written in like a long time ago, but it's a really good book, and it a lot of it pinpoints a lot of times in history where things happen and people ascribe reasons for them, but when you look back, it's really kind of hard to think of a reason, and and so I don't know. There's kind of a herd mentality to a lot of things, and I think when human beings interact with one another, we tend to want to always give a reason for things. But I think there's some times when things just happen, And I'm not saying that this is one of those times, but I'm saying it might be where the fear of missing out or whatever is taking over, and it's not based on rationality or even emotion. It's just sort of a this is what we do, kind of thing. So at least that's a possibility in my mind.
That makes sense. Hey, this was another insight that, okay, so random, small kind insight, but going back to Web3 and scent pages, um, one of the things that I decided that I'm going to do is I have a collection of books that are all tied to vagabond, right? The word vagabond, or the idea of vagabond, or travel, and I've put together this collection of books over many decades, I guess, and it's a pretty neat collection. But I'm a little bit thinking, like, it's time to let them go. And what's the best way that I can do that? And how could I incorporate Web3 into, like, doing this? And I got this idea of, okay, so what if I were to take a nice picture of these books? Like, there's going to be ones that I'll keep, but for the most part, I think, what if I were to take a nice picture of the book and to place it on Scent with with a price attached to it as an NFT, and then the person that buys that NFT will then have the ability to, I can ship them the book. Basically. So they can send me their address and I can ship them the book. But I've been wanting for a while to be able to sell real world goods as NFTs, giving provenance to them, and somehow making it possible for people to pay with crypto, or with fiat money. So my thought is, with the books, I can take a book, take a picture of it, write a nice description of it, make sure to show the provenance and why it is this particular book and not, another different copy of it. And then I'm thinking, create two Scent NFTs, one that I will send to my off of Scent wallet so that I can list it for a crypto price, and the other one that I'll keep in my Scent wallet that will be listed for a fiat price, and whichever one sells, the other one will be delisted. Does that make sense? Have you guys thought about this, about how to bring commerce to Web3 and with real world things?
I literally think about this all the time. Stevie. I think about it all the time. I think I'm loving experiments that I see. I also I think there's things about, like, things that are sticky, and, like, things that are elevated in mainstream media and mainstream stuff. It's so tied to, they manufacture the emergence that we see in who's on Saturday Night Live as the musical act is determined by basically the equivalent of an algorithm, right? And, like, what gets elevated, what becomes in, all of a sudden they're on Good Morning America, they're on the late night shows, and their ads are popping up on every device, right? So, like, there's this sense that emergence is being orchestrated. Um, but then there's this other phenomenon, this weird cult classic kind of thing that happens where it was, like, copied hand to hand and, like, photocopied street underground, whatever that is. And I don't think that's gone away, even if it has been co-opted. So I think what I'm always thinking of when knowing or imagining that I don't have access to the larger engine, what does it mean to just build on a low lowbrow scale? I don't know what I'm saying.
I gave 100%, not because you don't know what you're saying, but because I agree with you. I just wanted to point that out. And no, I'd like to hear more about what you're saying there, because I really believe that you do know what you're talking about and what you're saying.
Well, I know we're approaching time, but, like, the patterns kind of work where, like, the engine takes what's on the margins and pulls it into the center. kind of repackages it and then redistributes it, but with the profit going to the center. So like there's always tendrils out to pull great ideas, great content, great story from the margins and pull it into the center. Rihanna's witchcraft, for example, and the paranormal and anything weird or esoteric can get pulled into the center, but you because we're not controlling that decision making process. Um, there's a little bit of gamification that happens on both ends. If I'm on the margins and I want to be in the center, I have to trick the center into paying attention to me. And if I'm in the center and I want stuff from the margins, I have to trick the margins that I'm matching their value set or something. So always this is really interesting interplay that happens.
I think I like what you're saying, and I suspect that like the algorithm that you posit as being, the thing that that creates what's going to be in the center. I suspect that algorithm itself is also emerging. In other words, the algorithm itself changes, and I think we try to uh, either alter the algorithm or do things to fit in with the algorithm and as it's changing, and so then we kind of control some of it, but then some more of it emerges, and so I think it's a we shift, and so I think it's a combination of the two, and I think that's why nobody can quite pin down what the algorithm is, because it changes like everything else. That's my yeah.
Well, I do feel like this is a topic that we should touch on again because we're touching on really, really important things that, you know, essentially bridge the gap between the Web3 things that we all love and the passions aside from Web3 that we all have, and also the way that those things can be co opted, used, exploited, or promoted. Might be another way to look at that. But Riona, I realize that we're running out of time, and so I want to hand the mic back to you. And if you want to wrap things up, or if you have closing thoughts, or it's your show. Take it.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. I'm so enthralled by the things that we were just talking about. And I want to pick that up again because I have actually had some different ideas about physical goods and utilizing NFTs to show ownership and all of that. And so let's definitely table this for next Monday. Same time, same place, right here. And let's come back to that. So that's wonderful. And everyone, and whether you're listening now or in the future, thank you so much for dropping by and spending an hour with us. We really appreciate that. And we hope that we've been able to give some inspiration and send some love your way. So if anyone else has anything that they would like to add, please let's do that. And then we will sign off for the day. Thank you, everyone, so much for coming. I hope you all have a wonderful day.